You're listening to The Flickcast, a podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, of course, my esteemed co-host, Joe Dilworth. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I am well and steamed. No, I'm not. I'm actually staring out at the start of a Snowmageddon, apparently, here, because it's snowing like nuts here, but it's going to be warm enough tomorrow to melt, so that's okay.
It's been cold here, but then hot. It's been weird, so I don't know. It's global warming is a fickle, I want to say fickle beast.
Yes,
but it doesn't do what it wants.
But I will tell you that I am excited to get talking about some geeky stuff if we could.
Yeah, definitely, it's a lot of stuff that nerds love. So yeah, let's get right into it and jump into. I guess we'll kind of segue our way into some trailers, but we may have a little deviation first. But let's go.
All right.
It's a very important business that was being discussed before we hit record. So
I know we should have recorded it. We were talking show business, actually.
Show business, yeah. It's mostly about the George Takei William Shatner feud, or the George Takei feud against William Shatner.
Yeah, it does. Seems kind of one-sided, but whatever.
It does, but you don't know what happened back then. Nobody really knows, except for the people that were there, and most of them are gone now.
Yeah.
So I know that Nimoy and Shatner had a bit of a falling out too. So I don't imagine. See, I like to get this picture in my mind that all the cast would like hang out and and drink, because like you feel that way more about Next Generation, like they're all pals, right? Or they're all friends.
They're all family, really, because they talk about going into Picard season 3 how they've like not lost touch over the years. They still like get together for people's birthdays and weddings and grandkid births and all that kind of stuff, and they're pretty tightly knit. And you expect, all of Star Trek's like that, right? And it's like, well, not
you'd like to think so, because that's the image that Gene Roddenberry presented, that we're all together, right? But yeah, it was a different time, obviously, and there was a different situation. But because when Shatner was hired for Star Trek, he was the star of the show. He was Captain Kirk. It was a show about him. And even in the first season, you could see it in the credits. It was like even only Leonard Nimoy got a card at the beginning, and then it was the rest of the cast, right?
Right.
Afterwards. So, and then DeForest Kelley got bumped in the second season, but it's like, it was George Takei's show. No, it was Shatner's show. And so, but now with Next Generation, it was like, it was an ensemble cast. Obviously Patrick Stewart was the lead, quote unquote, but he wasn't really the lead. Plus he was already like a seasoned, like Shakespearean theater actor, where people probably collaborate a lot more and stuff too. So I don't know. Maybe he was a dick too. Who knows?
That was kind of, that was the thing back in TV in the 50s, 60s, even into the 70s, probably partly into the 80s, is like you had a star of the show and you built the show around them.
Right.
And it was like, everybody, I hate to say it, but everybody was, anybody could leave and it was no big deal, but your star, you wanted to keep happy. And as we discussed, there were, quite interesting contracts back in the day. As producers of Star Trek have revealed over the years, Shatner had his, stipulation that from his agent that he got X number of lines per episode. So it was like, don't care who they come from, those lines need to go to Shatner, right? And it was like, it was a business. It was just the way it was done. So,
yeah. Well, that's interesting you say that, because talking about this whole controversy, quote unquote, with Tarantino, especially talking about how Marvel movies with Captain America is the star of the movie, not Chris Evans, et cetera, et cetera. I don't mean to single out Chris Evans, but and how they're not movie stars anymore. And if you think about it, it's, I hate to say it, but it's sort of true in a way, because back in the day when I was growing up, I would go see the next Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or the next Stallone movie or the next, and those are the people, those are the names that drove people to the theaters. Like, I'm going to go see the next whatever. And I think partially now it's that there's so much content that people just don't care as much, and people just don't go to the theater as much. But I can see his point, though. And of course, people are going to vilify Tarantino for speaking out about that kind of thing. But
including Sam Jackson. But
but Sam Jackson and Tarantino could disagree because they're friends. But I don't see people giving Anthony Mackie a hard time, because Anthony Mackie said the same thing a few years ago. He said, "Hawk, I'm not the star. It's the character that's the star of the show."
Right.
And he had the foresight to say that, but it's just, it's funny because it's kind of true. People go see the next Marvel film. They're not going to go see.
Right.
I may like Chris. I may think all those actors were good in their parts, but it's not like, I'm going to go see the next Chris Hemsworth movie because I'm just, I think he's the greatest actor in the world, or I'm not going to go see Knives Out 2 because of Chris Evans or whatever. Not that he's in it, but you know what I'm saying. So it's
I'm
just
seeing it because of Daniel Craig. Well, I agree with that to a certain extent. I think I think that's probably true of I hate to use this term, younger people, because like you and I grew up watching movies with, like you said, it's like, oh, go see the latest Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I don't care what it is, and that was
right.
That was the thing back then. I mean, movie studio actors signed with a studio. They didn't even sign with, I'm going to do whatever movies. It wasn't even that. It was like, Warner Brothers owns Cary Grant or whoever. I'm just throwing that out there, but. And
Wow,
they
it's
made
like indentured servitude, but yeah.
I know, but they made like 12 movies with him and stuff like that, and I'm sure they got paid quite well for it. And you're right, it was like stars. And I in particular, I do follow particular. If there's a project and it's like Daniel Craig is going to be in it, I'm like, I'm going to pay attention to that. I want to go see that. I'm also probably more. In my older years, probably more following directors than actors, but I would say the bulk of the movie-going audience nowadays, and the age that is the desirable demographic, as they say, probably just like, what's the next Marvel movie? What's the next big spectacle? And blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah, I wonder if it's, I'm trying to think of when the time was that I realized that I was following more like franchises, or I was following directors, or I was following particular stories. Like I loved Alien. So when Aliens came out, did I go see it because it was a sequel to Alien, or did I go see it because James Cameron directed it because he'd also done Terminator, which had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, strangely enough.
right.
I don't remember when that transition happened. It probably happened, for me at least, when I started to be more aware of how films are made, and that I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And so I would be more interested in who was making the films behind the scenes and everything. But yeah, it's interesting because now, in a lot of ways, things have transitioned to what's the next, like you said, what's the next Marvel movie, what's the next franchise picture. And I'm sure we'll talk about this more when we talk about, some of the trailers that we're going to discuss in this episode. But it's just, when did that happen? When did that shift happen? People sort of got away from, Tarantino had a good point. It's like, who are the movie stars now? Maybe Tom Cruise. I don't know. Maybe Leonardo DiCaprio as a few, but I don't know that people like, oh, I got to see the next Leonardo DiCaprio movie. It's like, I don't know that happens anymore. And I don't think it even happens with me. I just want to go and be entertained and have a good time at the movies. Like when we saw Wakanda Forever, it's like, I didn't go because, of a particular actor. I went because I wanted to see the continuation of the story and how they were going to deal with that and everything. And I'll see the next, I'll see Guardians 3, not because I'm a huge Chris Pratt fan necessarily, but I just want to see what James Gunn does. So I think in a way I'm following the director more than I'm following the characters. I'm following the situation and the story more than I'm following the actors, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like I said, yeah, for me, it's kind of shifted to, it's like, I'll see anything James Gunn does. Even if he was like, I'm going to do this, quirky romantic comedy that has nothing to do with comic books or sci-fi, I would totally watch that because it's him. And I like his style, and I like that. So maybe it's almost like a shift of the age of the writers, almost in a way, because people are like, I'll follow the story as opposed to a specific actor. So I don't know. I kind of see Tarantino's point. I kind of see Sam Jackson's rebuttal. He's like, would that necessarily be true if I hate to go back to it. It's like if Iron Man flopped and they're like, well, we're going to try again with somebody else, and we're going to try to reboot it again, and we're going to do Iron Man again a few years later. Would that necessarily, I'm going to go watch, it's Iron Man, I'm going to go see it. I don't know. It's like if any of the major Marvel characters had been recast, like say, well, we did 3 movies with Chris Evans as Captain America, and he doesn't want to be Captain America anymore, but we need to have him in Infinity War and Endgame. We're going to recast. Maybe that's a bad example because that was more ensemble, but it's like, now we're going to make a new Captain America with the same character, Captain America, but somebody else doing it. Would that hold as much weight. Would people be that interested? I mean, we'll get to see that with Witcher.
Maybe not, because look how people reacted to even the hint that they might recast Chadwick Boseman. So
right, exactly. So I think it's a combination. I don't think
maybe because people just like, I can't imagine seeing anybody else in that role at this point now that it's already established. But because he was a dynamic presence, and he was, and also he didn't get to finish his run. I think that's part of it too. It's like with Heath Ledger and the Joker, it's like, I don't really want anybody to be the Joker again because Heath Ledger died. He didn't get a chance to, expand the role or whatever. But then people embrace Joaquin Phoenix because Joaquin Phoenix is a tremendous actor and owned the role. I mean, and that movie was a lot different than obviously than a Batman film. It was more of a crazy psychological examination of the Joker. But but yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I guess I think the idea that people abandon the movie star concept, I think, is probably wrong. I think people do go see Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple.
Yeah, it's not. It's there are some people I think that still will get people to come. Obviously, Maverick got people to go to the theater.
Yeah,
but that's also Tom Cruise revisiting his role from before. So, and he'll keep making Mission Impossible films. He's not exactly doing new IP, to showcase anything. It's like, the one example that I saw was like Robert Downey Jr. People go see the Marvel films, but they didn't give a shit about Dr. Dolittle. So it's not like they're following Robert Downey Jr. everywhere because no one gave a shit about that movie because it failed miserably. But that's like one example.
I don't think that was his fault though. But
well, I don't know if it was his fault or not. But it didn't get people to go. It didn't even open. It's like nobody went because nobody is following Robert Downey Jr. I mean, people like him as Iron Man. It's just maybe the problem is now no one can see him as anything else. I don't know, but I know that Chris Hemsworth has done a bunch of other movies and no one cared, like Men in Black International, whatever it was. No one gave a shit about that.
But like his movie Extraction has done really well. There's a sequel.
Yeah, but that's Netflix though, man. That doesn't matter. That's not the same.
I think it's a combination, and I think you kind of hit on it earlier with, there wasn't 500 or so movies a year back in the 60s and 70s.
Well, that's it too. Yeah.
I mean, there's like 300 to 400 movies every year. There's 400 scripted TV series per year. It's kind of,
in the 80s, we had 3 networks,
right,
and primetime television programming, and then occasional other channels that would show stuff. And you had the movies, and that's it.
Right.
There was no streaming. I mean, you had books, obviously, and everything, but there was no streaming, no Netflix, none of this other shit. It's like, I think the problem is now there's too many options. I mean, that's not a problem, but the difference is there's too many options.
There's a lot of options at this point. And
So
you don't have to go, well, because, I'll tell you, like you said, like you asked earlier, it's like, when did the shift happen for you where you're like, well, I'm going to follow a franchise now and a story instead? I can tell you, for me, I don't know the exact time, but I can tell you, for me, it was driven by money, because it was like, I haven't always been in the position where I can go, well, I can just go see a movie or 2 movies this weekend if I want to. There were lean times where it was like, man, I'd really like to see that movie in the theater, but I'm going to have to wait to rent it because I'm poor. But it was like, oh, a new Alien movie or a new Star Wars movie or a new whatever franchise or story that I was interested in. It's like, okay, I'm going to splurge and go see that, right? But there's been times since then that it's like, well, I can go see a movie anytime I want to, or I can wait a minute and I'll be able to watch it at home. So, again, for me,
with
still,
commercials.
Yes, I still follow. I would say it's a combination for me, and it sort of always was once I became aware of how movies were made, where it's like, oh, this director is doing this, I'm going to definitely check that movie out. This actor's doing this, I have been a big fan of theirs, I'm going to definitely watch it. So I would say for me, and I'm not any kind of sampling of the general populace, it's a combination. There's writers, directors, actors that I am fans of that I'm like, yeah, whatever new stuff they're doing, I'm definitely going to check out. So
yeah, I think for me, it was probably, at least for the franchise element, it was Star Wars. Because once I saw Star Wars, I'm like, oh, now I will watch anything that's Star Wars forever. I will watch anything that George Lucas does because I knew who that was. I will watch anything that Harrison Ford is in. See, in that respect, I was following Harrison Ford because I went and saw Blade Runner. And I'm like, oh, Blade Runner is totally different than Star Wars. What the hell is this? So I saw every Harrison Ford movie. So in my opinion, Harrison Ford is a movie star. So,
Yes.
but did I go see the movie because Harrison Ford was in it? Yeah, that's the reason I saw Blade Runner. Plus, I think also I've always loved science fiction, so it was following a genre as well. And so Blade Runner, obviously science fiction. And then I realized, oh, that's Ridley Scott who also did Alien. So it's like, oh, well, now I'll see Alien. Or I saw Alien first, I guess, and that was Ridley Scott because that came out before Blade Runner. But and so I'm like, and then I became aware of directors, and I think I first became aware of directors probably because of George Lucas, because his name was on everything for Star Wars, and Spielberg, of course. When I started watching Spielberg movies like E.T. and stuff, I'm like, oh, who's this Steven Spielberg kid? He seems pretty smart,
right.
So, and that's what it is. So I ended up following them and their movies, but also it was genre based too. I would love science fiction movies. I would see any sci-fi movie. I would see, all of that kind of thing. So I don't know that I was ever really, it wasn't exclusively like what actor was in something. I mean, obviously I saw every, Stallone movie or Schwarzenegger movie, and everything, that Harrison Ford in, or anything that anybody, heck, I saw Corvette Summer in the theater, for God's sake. So obviously I'm a Mark Hamill fan too.
Yeah.
But it actually was a funny movie, but,
it was
Annie Potts.
Yes.
Annie Potts. Yeah. Anyway, so it's just, I don't think, at least for me, it was just actors necessarily. It was just, but I do think that was a big deal for most people, because back then you put the actor's face on a poster with some helicopters and some explosions, and you could sell the shit out of that movie. And so, that's what was driving things. And I think that with more competition, you need bigger, stronger, more explosions. You need an ensemble film. You need a reason for people to go to the theater. And that's not just to go because of one actor. I don't think that movies today could rely on that necessarily. I think they need more than just the strength of one actor for that.
Well, and
honestly, because it's not working, so they must need more.
Honestly, I don't. Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, and I don't think it's not. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's as simple as, well, nobody's following actors anymore. I'm like, well, that's not true, as we've just discussed. And you know what? Thinking about it too, it's like, back in the day, an Orson Welles movie, it's like people are going to go see that, but he also directed, right?
I've seen every Orson Welles movie, but yeah.
Milius,
but I'm weird.
Milius,
Francis Ford Coppola, yeah.
Leone. I mean, there's directors back then, and people are like, I'm going to go see their movie. So I think that has always been that way. It's been a combination. It's just more obvious now because there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah, well, I think Tarantino, he has a bias because, like us, he's an old guy now, and this is what he grew up with, and this is the reason, I think, in a lot of ways, that he watched particular movies, because he loved actors. It's clear that he loves actors,
right?
And so I think that to him, that was a driving force to what films he watched, and then he just started watching everything and just realizing who all these actors were and what they could do, and and to this day, that's a motivating factor for him about watching movies, because he talks about like the golden age of Hollywood, when, like you talk about with contract players and everything. Yeah, they were movie stars because that's what the studio made them. They were machines that got, it's like, I'm not saying that they weren't talented or whatever. I'm just saying that was the way it worked. This is the star, we have these stars in our stable or whatever, and we're going to make the next, you said Cary Grant, the next Cary Grant movie, and the next, but then also they started pitching it like, oh, it's Alfred Hitchcock, whatever. And that's also, I should say, when I became aware of it, a director too, was Alfred Hitchcock. It's like an Alfred Hitchcock movie is coming out with Cary Grant, To Catch a Thief or whatever it was, or any of those kind of things. So,
well, and much like TV with the three networks, you had like 2 or 3 big studios making movies back then. There were still like independent films and stuff, but it wasn't like I said, it wasn't like 400 movies a year like it is now. So
a couple hundred,
So back then you could say, hey, we are the people that have Cary Grant movies, so you're going to see our movie. I bet you, though, that people were not like, oh, yeah, let's go see the new Cary Grant by Warner Brothers movie, right? They didn't care about that. It's like Cary Grant. But there was also directors they pushed. Come see the new Orson Welles directed movie. It just happens to star this other person. So I think you could do that back then. You could market it. And nowadays, if you market it, I mean, you still see things on Variety. It's like, oh, Chris Evans is starring in this new thing. It's still articles, and there's still newsworthy things to say this actor this is their next movie, and people are like, oh yeah, I want to see that. So, but I don't think you can solely rely on that anymore. So yeah, like you said, I think that was the motivating factor for Tarantino, and he doesn't see that as everybody's primary goal to see movies nowadays, because there's so much stuff out there. So I can see him going, oh, it's just not the same anymore. And it's like, I don't.
No, it isn't the same.
It is the same.
Nothing
There's
stays
more.
the same.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to keep in mind that he's probably been affected by the idea that, a lot of bigger movies get made, blockbuster type stuff, so it affects his ability to make films. Like Scorsese too. Scorsese, even to this day, probably has trouble getting money to make movies. Which is shocking to me. Because he doesn't make things that are blockbusters. So that's the thing that sells. So he had to go to Netflix to make his last thing. And so Tarantino too. I mean, Tarantino makes, for lack of a better word, smaller movies, right? He makes somewhat independent films that don't cost $200 million, and they probably don't make $200 million either. So, and I don't want to talk about Woody Allen much because he's kind of a piece of shit, but he is the same kind of situation where he still has trouble, getting money to make movies. And so what else are they going to do? Of course they're going to say something negative about big Marvel films. They're spending all their money on these giant movies. What would you do with $200 million? Well, I'd make $201 million movies. People say that joke all the time. It's like, yeah, maybe you would, but maybe you wouldn't either, because they'd all fail probably. But he's got he's got, like everybody else, he's got a bias. So I mean, it's the other thing that I guess the ultimate thing we should keep in mind before we move on to the trailers is it's just his opinion.
Right.
It's
just
like
Scorsese's opinion.
It's obviously informed opinion. The guy has been making films for 100 years, and Scorsese too. If Scorsese talks about movies, I'm going to fucking listen to him because he knows what the fuck he's doing. He's one of the few genius filmmakers that exist still. But I don't think he's saying that all Marvel movies are shit, and I don't think Tarantino's saying that either. In fact, he even said if he was a kid, he'd probably be eating them up right now, which I agree, he probably would be. And I just think that, he's got a bias like everybody else. And again, it's his opinion. It's an informed opinion. And, and the people that are bashing him and Scorsese and everybody else, it's like, just, you should probably listen to them. Can't we just have a conversation about this? It doesn't have to be, people don't have to rise out of the woodwork to vilify, oh, that fucking old man doesn't understand shit, It's like, come on, the guy knows more about movies than you'll ever know in your entire life. Seriously.
Well, and, part of me too is like Tarantino used to get by being cool, by like, who's this Sonny Chiba guy he's talking about? Who's this? Oh, he's got Robert Forster in his movie and Eric Stoltz. Oh, he used to, that used to be his cred. It's like, oh, I grew up watching such and such movies, and that's where this inspiration came from. It's like, wow, he really knows this stuff. And so he can't go, hey, I'm going to have Chris Evans in my new movie. And people are going to be, oh, okay, great. That's another Chris Evans movie. It's not going to be, excitable or anything. So
he should have Chris Evans in his movie.
I think he should.
I'm just saying.
Maybe Chris Evans said, I don't want to be in your movie. And he's like, that's it. I fucking hate Marvel.
He said, fuck you, Tarantino. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I don't think Tarantino has problems getting actors to be in his movies, though.
I don't think he has problems getting money for his movies either. But
I don't know. I mean, you take a thing like, his last movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or whatever it was called. I can't remember the name of it now. Yeah, I mean, that's basically every movie star, whatever you want to call it, in the world, basically, in that movie, right? DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So I would say Brad Pitt's probably a movie star, but I don't know that people will clamor to go see the next Brad Pitt movie either. But yeah, I don't think he has trouble getting actors. So,
no.
Obviously, Ryan Johnson doesn't have much trouble getting actors either, and people like that. So
yeah,
I don't know. I haven't seen Knives Out 2, but apparently it's quite good.
I'm not going to the theater to see that. I'll watch it when it comes on Netflix.
Yeah, well, it's going to come on Netflix. Yeah, it's going to be the thing. So, do you want to talk about the trailers that came out?
Yes,
we're just gonna keep going. We
will. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of movie stars and speaking of well-worn franchises, if you want to call it, there's a new Indiana Jones film, The Dial of Destiny. Yes. There's a new Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. There's a new, I think, which is going to be my personal favorite film of the year, Cocaine Bear.
Dude, that is like,
it's off the hook.
That's like, I don't know, people want to complain about, trailers don't really draw people anymore and stuff. That trailer right there, Well, here's the thing. I heard about the movie a while ago, like you did, I'm sure, and I heard Elizabeth Banks was directing it, and that actually kind of got my interest because I do like Elizabeth Banks, and I was like, oh, she's going to direct. This should be interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think her Charlie's Angels movie was terrible. So
no, I didn't. I actually kind of liked it, but see. Well, we can talk about that one first, because seeing that trailer...
Okay, Cocaine Bear it is.
I'm like, this is like... It's one of those where I was just grinning the whole time watching. I'm like, this is an insane, crazy movie. I'm definitely seeing this.
Yes. It looks crazy, and it has like a really cool cast. Kerry Russell, O'Shea Jackson, and Eldon Heinrich,
Yes.
Heinrich, however you want to say it. Yeah. Good for him. But yeah, if you don't know the story, it's based on true events. It's basically the story of a bear that ingests an entire duffel bag of cocaine that fell out of an airplane.
Yes, and goes on a rampage.
And goes on a rampage, in a small Georgia
thrown
town.
out of an airplane, but okay.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. But, so it's just, it's so insane and so crazy. It's just, it's going to make a lot of money. I'm positive that it's going to make a lot of money. It's just, it looks so funny to me. I don't know.
It just looks great. I guess maybe this is the kind of like horror movie I like. It's like the dark comedy, kind of teetering on the fence towards farce kind of horror movies, because it just looks... I'm sure there's probably parts that are very gory and stuff like that. But it just looks great. It just looks really funny, and I mean, a bear hopped up on cocaine. I mean, in real life, the whole thing lasted like an afternoon, and then the bear, obviously died because of too much cocaine, and didn't go quite on the rampage that it does in the movie. I don't even know if he killed anybody or anything, but this one is like, they're billing it as, he, like you said, he ingests the whole thing of...
it goes nuts.
Of the whole thing. Goes crazy, does the, just the scooting across the ground was great. And apparently, his driving force in this movie is to get more cocaine. So...
well, that's the problem with cocaine. Once you have some, you want more.
Exactly. Especially if you have a whole duffel bag full. Yeah. But I'm just like, this just looks like they had a lot of fun with it, and this is one I will make a point of going to the theater to see, I think. So
yeah, I kind of feel like it. Yeah, I kind of feel like it's one of those things where you should see it in the theater. I don't know why. Well, you should see it in the theater with a whole group of people.
Yes, take some of your friends. I know it's a completely different movie, but seeing this trailer was kind of similar to seeing like the trailer for Fight Club and other movies similar to that. I'm like, this just looks like a whacked out movie, and it's probably right up my alley. So definitely going to go see it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Elizabeth Banks is the director, and Lord Miller are among the producers. So it's like, it's that kind of thing. And also, I feel like it'll be a good amount of quality as well. Even though it looks like a schlocky 80s horror film, I'm sure it'll be... that's actually, I'm sure, an aesthetic they're going for, which also makes sense. I'm changing subject again, but it also makes sense that Han Solo is in this movie because...
Well, Lord Miller. Yeah.
Lord Miller did the Han Solo film, and, for a while. And then
for a little while, and, yeah.
But I'm glad to see him get more work, because I think he's a pretty good actor. But, Kerry Russell and O'Shea Jackson, and... as someone pointed out, is that the guy from the viral TikTok videos? I think it is.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so, it just looks nuts. It really, really reminds me of, that's two reallys. It really, really reminds me of all the 80s horror films that I really liked. And so, I mean, it does take place in 1985, so that makes sense. But
and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is Ray Liotta's final role, maybe?
It might be, yeah. He does look pretty tore up in this one.
He does.
I hate to say that, but...
R.I.P.
Ray Liotta.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even the poster, I'm looking at the poster of it, it just looks like, I got to see this movie. It's like, Cocaine Bear, how could you not want to see that?
The bear is like bursting from a giant bank of cocaine. So.
Yes.
It also makes sense that it takes place in the 80s. I mean, that's when the story supposedly happened, but, because the 80s, as many people know, the 80s was the heyday of coke. So
it was. That was
allegedly.
I
was a kid in the 80s. What do I know?
Yeah, what do you know? What were you doing cocaine back then?
I wasn't.
Know, I'm just kidding.
Come on, why are you gonna be that way? Anyway, it just looks crazy. I'm excited, and you're right. It's funny. Of all the trailers that came out, like I'm really looking forward to Indiana Jones. I'm really looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But this one, I have to be honest and say it got me the most pumped.
It did. I mean, it's funny. You're right, because we'll talk about them in a minute, but those other two were like, oh yeah. But this
it was more of a subtle, like, oh cool, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But this was like, yes, Cocaine Bear.
I wonder if it's like Cocaine Bear is like, I didn't know. I knew that a little bit about the original story and that kind of stuff, but I didn't know anything about what this movie was going to be like. And just seeing that, I'm like, okay, you made the right trailer for this movie. That's for sure.
Definitely.
He's the original. See, I love this. So the original Cocaine Bear is also named Pablo Escobar.
Oh my, that's great.
Yes. Yeah, this is great.
Pablo Escobar.
Yes.
Where'd you find that bit of trivia?
On the Wikipedias.
The Wikipedia is cool.
Yes. So yeah, basically ingested 75 pounds and $2 million worth of cocaine.
That's really cool.
The examiner, when they examined his body, said his stomach was literally packed to the brim with cocaine.
Oh my God.
But he only absorbed like 3 to 4 grams of the substance into his bloodstream at the time of death. So, I mean, he didn't last very long on it.
Don't spoil the movie.
Well, no, because
now we know what happens to Cocaine Bear.
What do you think's going to happen to him?
I don't know. I thought he would survive, maybe.
So we get Cocaine Bear 2.
Well, come on.
In Cocaine Bear 3.
The Reckoning.
Escobar takes Manhattan.
Wait, what was the cocaine? It's got to be The Reckoning, or this time it's personal.
This time it's personal. And then then the fourth one is like The Return.
So I'm going to predict right now that at the end of Cocaine Bear, there's going to be a baby. It's going to turn out that there's a baby Cocaine Bear. So the baby's going to come out and just go and take a little bite of the coke, and then the eyes are going to pop, and that'll be the end.
It's like, and that'll be Cocaine Bear 4, 2. The Return.
Or it'll be a pregnant mama bear that ingests the leftover cocaine, and then all the kids will be crazy cocaine bears too.
Yeah. And Cocaine Bear 5 will be takes Manhattan, and then the sixth one will be Cocaine Bear in space.
In space, fighting Jason.
Yes, exactly. Hey, if this becomes a franchise, I'm totally behind it. So yes, Cocaine Bear is in February. I gotta say, I love the tagline, "Get in line."
I get it because it's
yeah, see.
And of course, do they use the song "White Lines" in the trailer? I think they do, right?
Yes, I believe they do. And there is a character in the movie named Stash. So Stache, but still, I'm like,
well, isn't that me mustache?
Yes. So. Okay. I'm just like, there's everything great about that. This is just, it's going to be extraordinary, I think.
It is going to be extraordinary. And that's all we really need to talk about. That's this episode, everybody.
Yeah, really. Thanks. There we go. Thanks.
Cocaine Bear.
That's the only, if you don't see any movies in 2023, you have to at least go see Cocaine Bear.
You do. You really do. I'd like to, we'll revisit Cocaine Bear when we see it, and I'm sure we'll enjoy it as much as we think we will. People are comparing it to like Sharknado and stuff. I know it's going to be better than Sharknado.
I'm okay with that comparison because I am a big fan of the Sharknado franchise because I think that's just silly and fun too. So
I like the first one, but it's like, I don't know. I was into Cocaine Bear before anybody.
Yeah, really?
I was into cocaine before anybody. No,
back in the 90s. No, what are you talking about? What?
I don't know. All right. Well, I don't know. What should we go to next? I feel like
let's go ahead and talk about Guardians. We'll save Indy for last.
It's hard to go anywhere.
Really? How do you follow up Cocaine Bear?
How do you follow Cocaine Bear? I guess Guardians, I guess with more of a downer final episode. But we're going to get final movie. It looks like we're going to get to see the origin of Groot. Not Groot, but Rocket.
Yeah.
And we're going to see Star-Lord crying with spit in his mouth. I'm not sure why I noticed that, but I did. It's a weird thing to say, I know. Swole Groot again will be back.
Yeah.
Will Poulter will finally make his appearance.
Yes.
Which was hinted at was that the second movie that had that?
Yeah, at the
teaser?
end of the second movie, it was
the
Cocoon. Yes.
The Cocoon, correct.
Yeah.
So,
Stallone is back as Stakar,
and Elizabeth Debicki is Aisha.
Yes,
of the Sovereign.
Because Adam Warlock,
yeah, Michael Rosenbaum.
Michael Rosenbaum is back as Martin X too, voicing Martin X. But
good for Michael Rosenbaum. He needs work.
Well, he was in the second one too. With,
that podcast isn't working out for him, so
I'm worried about that guy. He needs more work.
So, poor guy. He does have a good podcast. Actually, I enjoy it. He had Will Wheaton on recently, and I thought that was a good. And of course, Will had his mask on in the studio when he was doing the interview. But it was very interesting hearing them talk. He's a good interviewer. That Rosenbaum. So anyway.
Well, and speaking of directors that like to use the same actors, Chuck Wooji. I know I totally.
Thank you for butchering that before I did. So I appreciate that.
But the guy from Peacemaker is in this one too as the High Evolutionary. So big things for. I would imagine some of this will spill out into other Marvel Universe movies, but I don't know. I'm very excited. I'm kind of dreading and at the same time excited to see how Gunn wraps up his trilogy. I'm glad he was able to come back and finish it with this movie. Like you said, the trailer is very foreboding, and especially James Gunn saying this will be the final movie with this iteration of the Guardians. It's like, well, so are we going to kill them all? I don't think we'll end that way. It doesn't seem like.
No, and there's more Marvel movies that'll come. Yeah, there'll be one, maybe two meaningful deaths, like in Infinity War or Endgame, whatever.
And the rest of them will be like, maybe we don't continue as a team and we go on and do our own things and stuff.
They'll get scattered at the end, and then the new movies that'll come out later will have them reuniting in some way. But I don't feel like. I mean, maybe Chris Pratt will come back and play Star-Lord again. I don't think they'll kill him, obviously.
Yeah, I think Bautista's done. He's said that, so maybe he's the big death we get.
Maybe, maybe.
And I don't think it wouldn't be too horrible for Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel to come back because they just do the voices. But
I don't think Rocket dies. I think
no.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that everybody's asking is like who's dying or whatever. Because I mean, obviously they're showing Rocket's like we're gonna go off into the.
But he gets a girlfriend in this one from the comics, so maybe like he gets to have a happy ending and go off and.
Wait, he gets a happy ending? What's happening? I don't understand.
I think so. I bet.
How does that look?
Oh well.
I was like, what are you suggesting?
Not that way. Get your mind out of the gutter. Jeez. In movie terms, he gets a happy ending. So.
Well, right. He retires, right?
Yes,
he goes to the farm, as it were.
He goes to the puppy farm. Yeah.
He goes to the puppy farm. Yeah.
Elephant burial ground, but. Oh wait, no, that's a wrong retirement. No.
He goes away on the boat to wherever the elves
Yes, exactly.
I mean, at some point, like Drax's arc. What is Drax's arc? I mean, Ronan was destroyed in the first movie, so it's like,
and Thanos is gone.
Is gone. So really, what does Drax have to do now, except throw balls at little girls, which I thought was pretty funny.
That was pretty great in the trailer.
I think what'll happen is I think that Drax and Mantis will go off together and have adventures.
Yes.
And that's how they'll continue that because they were great in the holiday special. I think the show that was funny with those two characters, and they're just like vastly different personalities. That would be fun to watch.
And I think so. According to the premise that was released, the Guardians have purchased Nowhere.
Yes.
That was in the holiday special, but and they've made it a haven for refugees displaced by the blip. So I bet, and there's a horrible attack, and they go off to fight. But I bet, Quill, and maybe with Gamora decides, I'm going to stay. I'm going to quit hopping around the galaxy, and I'm going to stay here and run Nowhere and continue to help people. And like you said, Mantis and Drax go off together, and Rocket gets to go have a family, and So
or I mean the sort of with the High Evolutionary, I feel like maybe Rocket leaves the group to go discover his roots, and maybe that's when he finds Leela.
Yeah.
But obviously the Guardians go to the planet which has all the weird creatures on it, so maybe that's the High Evolutionary's planet. Because later in the trailer, there's a scene where they seem to be fighting on a platform
Yes.
where Quill grabs somebody and jumps off the thing, but in the background it seems like there's that city still. So maybe they're saving Rocket or they're busting Leela out. I mean, it's hard to know, but it's it's who knows what'll happen. Maybe it's who could actually, I hate to say this, who actually could be the person that gets killed is Nebula.
Well, that could be. That would kind of follow her arc too. She finally, sacrifices herself for everybody and for like the galaxy, literally. And that would kind of bring her character back around to
the other thing to think about is like they've already saved the galaxy. They've already, participated in Endgame, and they've already done this whole giant thing. So this has got to be more of a personal story about their relationships, and about their sacrifices and their origins and where they come from. And I'm sure they'll play more about what Quill and Mantis being related, and stuff like that. And so and we've already seen Groot die, and so it won't be Groot.
I just don't think. Even though it's ominous and Gunn has said this will be the last time we see this, the Guardians as this team, I still feel like there's not going to be mass death. I think
it's a Marvel movie. It's not going to be mass. It's a Disney movie, guys.
Yeah, maybe we have one character that sacrifices themselves, but I think that the meaning of that is going to be at the end that they go. In a positive way, go their separate ways. It's like, hey, we've each found our own families, and we're going to go do this now. And it was great run, but we're breaking up the band, and it's okay. And there'll be tearful farewells and stuff. But like you said, I think maybe Nebula, but I don't think there's just going to be like wipe out the whole team. I could be wrong though. Maybe they do. I don't know. So it just doesn't feel right for a Marvel Disney movie. But
well, I mean, think about it. Endgame was the big movie, right? And you had Tony, and you had Natasha, and you had Vision, right? And that's it. Three people in an entire gigantic war franchise, whatever you want to call it. Everyone else survived. In fact, and then Vision came back, right? And so and Tony can come back, and now it's the multiverse. So any of these characters can return, even if they die, because Rocket exists in the multiverse, and so does Nebula, and so does everybody. So, if you believe that kind of thing, so nothing's permanent in comics, even if it's I don't think that James Gunn will be the person who permanently destroys all of these characters. It's just I don't think it's going to happen. So.
No, I of course, saying that in the way that he did is like, oh, everyone's got to go see and who's going to die, and I just don't see that happening. But I could be wrong. So, but I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I really want to see how he finishes this story off, and I think this trailer shows once again, and the holiday special that. Even though they, appear in Infinity War for the most part, and in partly in Endgame, that nobody really has the kind of take on these characters that works like Gunn does. I mean, they felt off to me a little bit in Infinity War and Endgame. They seem to be skewed more towards the comical and
more towards the mainstream of Marvel.
In their own movies,
they can be quirkier.
By Gunn, they just fit better. So, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm dreading it, but at the same time, also really looking forward to seeing how James Gunn wraps up the story. So,
Yeah, although, I mean, maybe he's mad about getting fired by Disney, so he's like, I'm going to fuck everything now. But
I'm going to kill all these characters. Good luck in using them somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't think he can kill them, but he's like, I'm going to permanently alter their their bodies or whatever. I don't know. I think they've got to build tension, and they've got to build, it's a good trailer because you wonder what's going on. It's definitely bringing people into the theater. It's good to see, and you see Gamora. Obviously, she's going to play a role, and Nebula getting beaten up by Adam Warlock, and because Adam Warlock's job is to kill the Guardians, right? So and then of course Rocket lying. I mean, it's too obvious, I think, to have him like lying there having this moment and realizing
fly one more time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's not going to happen to him.
No.
But yeah, I mean, or it will, and then there won't be a dry eye in the theater.
That's true. Over a CGI raccoon.
Not raccoon.
No,
Trash Panda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't have you know what? This is a movie I will see in the theater, I have to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. And it's around my birthday, too. So I thank James
nice.
Gunn and Marvel for releasing the Guardians movies in the month of my birthday every time. So it's a good thank you for that birthday present, Marvel. I appreciate it. So.
Yeah.
Because I know that's why they did it.
Peter Quill, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, must rally the Guardians on a mission to defend the universe and protect one of their own from a dangerous common enemy. Well, obviously it's Rocket that's one of their own, a dangerous common enemy, the High Evolutionary.
Exactly,
so
yes.
And Adam Warlock. So,
yes.
I guess nothing's obvious, but...
I would be, hate to say this, and I'm sorry, Chris Pratt, but I'd be okay if Quill goes out in this one, but
wow.
I don't think he will. I think
That's
and
hard.
Gamora will end up running nowhere. I think
with babies.
Yes, I think like you said, Drax and Mantis will go off to have adventures because they just seem like they're not going to sit still and they get along. That dynamic worked really well in the.
It did.
The
other thought that occurred to me is that now that Quill, I mean, there's a reason they revealed Mantis and Quill's common parentage in the thing.
Yes.
Maybe that's who's dying. Maybe Mantis dies, and that's why Quill is so upset. I never got to know my sister.
Maybe that's like the final thing where Drax is like, you know what, I'm just kind of done. And
just like I've seen too many people die.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like I lost my family, and Mantis became kind of, I could see a brother sister dynamic between those two, and he's like, she became my family, and I, lost her, and I'm just, I'm ready to be done. Maybe he's the one that is the big sacrifice. I don't know, but
maybe
because Bautista's like, which is funny because he said the big reason why he doesn't want to do it is having his body plastered with all of the scarification and stuff. Yeah, but yet in the holiday special, they had him wearing sweaters and stuff. I'm like, well, just give him a uniform. Doesn't that solve it? You just have to make up his face. I mean, come on. So
yeah, but he also has to maintain that level of fitness that he doesn't want to. Maybe he's, if
you give him a suit, he doesn't have to.
I guess that's true. Well, he still can't be fat though.
No, but I mean, still, you can make him look muscular with a suit. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
So,
and then of course he's like posting photos of him like we're getting a workout during Guardians 3. I'm like you.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to do this anymore, but I'm going to totally boast about it. I'm like, what?
Well, he still has to fulfill his contract.
Right? I know, but
yeah, I mean, 3 movies is enough. Maybe he wants to do something else. I don't know. I think Dave Bautista is one of those guys who could be a lead of movies.
Yes.
I think he still has some
He's a
life.
Star. He could be a star.
I think he could be. Yeah, I think he could go out and be the Chris Pratt, because he's actually more likable than Chris Pratt in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And so I think he could go out and do the same kind of movies even that Chris Pratt does.
Yes.
Maybe he's not as movie star good looking, but he could basically you could plug Dave Bautista into any role that like any of those Extraction movies, or you can plug him into any of the Edge of Tomorrow movie, or any movie that Pratt has done. Basically, could have been Dave Bautista.
Right.
Although the problem with that is like with Schwarzenegger is like you never believe that Schwarzenegger was really in any danger because he's so much bigger and stronger than everybody else.
That's true. Yeah.
So and that was the reason we always talk about. I mean, I do at least. I always talk about Die Hard as one of those first movies where it was like an everyman action star. Like Bruce Willis was not super fit for Die Hard.
Right.
He wasn't like ripped.
Right.
Although I saw something the other day that made sense to me is like the kind of ripped abs and stuff is more of an American, I think, version of fitness. Because they were pointing out like there's some really strong, powerful, dangerous people, in other countries that are kind of chunky. It's like there's not like ripped abs and stuff like.
Well, that's why a bunch of people were ragging on what's his name that played Namor. And
right, he wasn't ripped. Yeah,
they're like, oh, he wasn't ripped, and it's like that guy was in shape. I don't care that he wasn't like, because here's the other secret, folks. For every time you see Thor without a shirt, or any of those characters that are ripped without their shirt, they quickly lift a bunch and do a bunch right before they hit action, so that the muscles show up. It's not like they look like that all the time.
Well, it's like the scene in Witcher everybody talks about where he's like like totally ripped. Like he basically didn't drink water for 3 days to get that.
Right, and then lifted a bunch right before it. And,
that's not safe, kids.
Right, exactly. So they don't actually look like that all the time. They probably look more like what Namor did. And I'm like, that guy was still like, he could kick my ass. I mean,
right. It's
nothing wrong with that.
They look like, well, I don't want to say normal people, obviously,
right.
but all the evil people, or all the Atlanteans, or whatever you call them. No, we're Atlanteans, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
They look tough, but they weren't like super skinny. And they weren't super ripped, and they weren't super whatever. But yeah, it's like, it makes sense for somebody like Captain America to look like that all the time. Because he's got the formula that makes him look like that. But not everybody has to look like that.
Exactly.
So, anyway, I don't know why I got on that tangent with Dave Bautista, but I think he could definitely be, after he plays Raban again, in the next Dune film, I think he should lead movies. I think he should be the lead of things.
He's a really great actor.
He's turned out to be. He could do comedy. He could do look at every movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger has made. You could just reboot them all with Dave Bautista.
Yeah,
I could totally see him playing in a movie Twins, where it's him and Mantis as twins now.
That would be great.
I would totally watch this.
Dave Bautista and Pom Clementeff. Clementeff are just like they just do movies together from now on. I'd be totally okay with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he could do, where Schwarzenegger goes to the school. I could see him. It's not a tumor. I could totally see him doing that in like his Drax deadpan kind of thing.
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Yeah,
yeah. I could.
It's only funny. It's sort of funny because Arnold's like, it's not a tumor. That's the funny part about it too. But I could see Bautista doing that. So I would watch. I literally would go back and redo all of Schwarzenegger's movies with Dave Bautista.
Batista would be like, it's not a tumor. What is wrong with you? Why would you do? It's not a tumor. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Forsooth.
Yes.
Yes. No, he's got to do accents too. But I mean, he's versatile. He could do action. He could do comedy. He could do drama. He could do it all. So good for him.
Yes.
I can't say the same for everybody. I don't think that necessarily Chris Pratt can do all those things. I mean, he tries. I think Zoe Saldana is going to be fine. She's going to keep getting more work.
Sounds like she's done with Marvel after this, because she's like, I just don't want to do franchises anymore.
I don't want to be in a movie where I have to be a different color. I don't want
like,
to be green or blue anymore.
It was a mistake to do I'm like, well, okay, you say that now, but...
Well, and then you go home to your big house and you're happy.
Right. And you keep getting those residuals that come in.
Yeah. Karen Gillan, I mean, she can do other stuff.
She is going to be fine because she's already been doing a ton of movies. So I'm not worried about her.
None of them have been terrific, though. That's the sad thing.
Which is a shame, because I think she's also a really great actor.
She is, I think so. Will Poulter is going to be fine. He's
Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel. I think they'll get more work, even not just doing voices. So I'm not worried about them.
I don't know if Vin Diesel keeps eating as much as he does. That's all he's going to do.
He's going to be Swole Groot.
I shouldn't say that. Obviously, James Gunn will keep making films and keep running DC now.
Yes.
So Sean Gunn will keep getting jobs.
They're coming up with a 10-year plan for DC, so that's a good thing.
I think what's going to happen is Cosmo is going to die. Cosmo the space dog.
No, don't kill you can't kill the dog, man.
No, I guess you can't. The Russians already killed Leica, so they can't kill Cosmo.
Don't kill.
Well, they didn't technically kill Leica. They just let him die, which is fucked.
Right. They're like, we can't do anything. Yeah,
we can't bring him back. That was bullshit.
I'm like, why did you do that and not have a plan to bring what the hell's wrong with you? Why would you?
It's like horrible. Yeah. Every time I think about that, it makes me mad.
They're like, it's like, and they were like monitoring his vitals the whole time. I'm like, you guys are sick. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, seriously, sick motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I got off on a Leica tangent. Anyway, yes, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm interested to see who Daniela Melchior plays.
Yes, that's true.
I really enjoyed her as Ratcatcher too.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see where she shows up. But anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Looking forward to
May 5th, 2023 so far.
So far.
But that'll be schedules do change. But now the big 100-pound archaeologist in the room. No,
The 100-pound idol in the room.
Throw me the whip. I'll throw you that. Okay. So another Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I don't love as a title. I got to be honest with you.
I don't really like. I'll be honest. I haven't really liked, other than just Raiders of the Lost Ark. I haven't really liked any of the titles. But
Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what it's called now.
I know, and it shouldn't be.
Stupid. Well, that's the problem with franchises. They have to come up with funny movies. But this is an interesting Indiana Jones film, not written or directed by Spielberg or George Lucas. The only executive producers, Mangold is directing, James Mangold, and 2 different writers that are not Lucasfilm type people. But a great cast, obviously. That Harrison Ford guy, he's coming back. John Rhys Davies as Sala.
That was, if anything, I'm glad Sala's back.
I am awesome. Too. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas.
Yes.
Toby Jones, Boyd Holbrook.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads motherfucking Mikkelsen.
Yes. That's about the only way you can really say his name right, I think.
You really can. As a Nazi.
Yes.
Well, it's an interesting premise and very, very, I guess, topical.
Yeah,
if you want to say that, because it's basically takes place during the space race. Indy does not like the fact that Nazis are being recruited into NASA, and of course, Mads plays a NASA scientist, a former Nazi who still wants to go with the old, final solution deal.
Yes,
it sounds like. But I will say this trailer, awesome. As soon as you hear the music,
man,
and I would say the most. The most interesting and probably the best de-aging that I've ever seen in a movie so far.
Yeah, even Ford was talking about that. He said this isn't like the deep fakes and stuff you've seen. He goes, if I think he's made some comment, if he hadn't filmed the scenes, he would have thought they were reusing old footage. But yeah,
of course he's old. Really he can't really see very well.
So. Yes,
and through that haze of weed smoke in his
he's in better shape than both of us put together. So
no, he is. He absolutely is. But that's so funny that people are complaining. It's like, oh, he's old. He can't be doing that. Like, no shit. He wasn't doing that in the first fucking movie. Stop people.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, exactly. He was never doing any of that.
He wasn't getting dragged behind that truck, guys. That was somebody else.
Yeah.
And whatever. He wasn't riding that horse. That was Vic Armstrong most of the time.
Right.
I hate to ruin it for you.
It's never, and the insurance company would never even let him do that back then. So
no, I'm sure that Harrison Ford did some things himself. But
well, yeah, and they did very controlled stunt work, so you could see his face and stuff like that. But
this was back in the day you couldn't replace people's faces and stuff like that, so it was like very very limited what the actor, especially the main franchise actor, could do.
Right, exactly.
But I don't even care what the story is. I will go see it on day one. I don't even care. Day one is, what is it? June 30th, 2023. Yep. I will be in my seat.
Yep.
Watching Indiana Jones.
Be there that day, no matter what else happens.
It will be. I think, in some ways, a little bittersweet because he is old.
Yes.
And so is Sala. Sala looks pretty rough, too. I hate to say it. But so that, to me, is like, wow, I must be really old, too, if I see that. Because I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark in a theater when I was a kid. So, but I cannot think of somebody. I mean, there's probably other directors that could have done it. But I think James Mangold is a great choice for an Indiana Jones film.
He's.
I was thinking about. I was curious what a Christopher McQuarrie or a McHugh, if you will,
yes, as we call
him, Indiana Jones film would look like, because there'd be a guy cocking his guns probably. But I'm just saying.
Only if Henry Cavill's in there. I think he's trademarked that.
Dude,
now.
Henry Cavill should be in an Indiana Jones film. I wonder. I mean, they're obviously going to have to continue this franchise. And
you think? I thought this was going to be.
No, well, not with Harrison Ford.
Right.
So they're like, oh, we'll do something really inventive. We'll do a TV version of Indiana Jones. I'm like, did you not watch the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles?
You already did that. And those were really good. So
I could see them doing a Disney Plus show of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Or maybe with Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character.
Yes.
But I think people will respond poorly. Some people would respond poorly to another Indiana Jones film with Phoebe Waller-Bridge as the lead, because they respond poorly to anything like that. But so she plays his goddaughter?
Yes. Apparently it's Brody's daughter.
Is it Marcus's daughter? That's what I thought. Yeah.
So that would make sense.
Is Toby Jones playing a young Brody?
I don't know.
Because I feel like the stuff in the trailer, a lot of it, like the train shit, I feel like that's flashback.
Yeah, I feel like Toby Jones is in all the flashback stuff, which is probably going to be the opening sequence, because that seems to be the trend with Indiana Jones movies. Is the opening sequence is something in the past that feeds into. Well,
that's how Indy knows that Mads Mikkelsen's character Jürgen Voller is a Nazi, because he fights him back in World War II on a train, and then later he sees him, and goes, I hate these guys.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be. Yeah.
I hate space Nazis.
I hate space Nazis. Yeah, exactly. He's going to say, someone's going to have to say that.
Of course.
So yeah, I would. I think a lot of the stuff in the trailer is probably the
flashback,
the opening sequence, like you said, the opening sequence where with the de-aging for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, Indy infiltrated something, and they reveal him. Because that could have been footage from Temple of Doom, or not Temple of Doom, but from
Crystal
the third movie.
Oh, Last Crusade.
Last Crusade, yeah, where he infiltrates. Does he wear a Nazi uniform in the first movie? I think he does actually in Raiders of the Lost Ark, because he infiltrates the sub base too.
Yeah.
I've only seen Raiders like 1,000 times.
Well, the flashbacks in this one are in like 44 instead of like the late 30s, like they were in the first movie. So
right. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the opening, and Toby Jones is in the past, and then at some point, Marcus will have a daughter. And then Marcus is dead because he got lost in his museum, and then he starved to death.
Well, they acknowledged he was dead in Crystal Skull. So, that was the 50s, and this is the 60s, so he's still dead.
1969. Yeah. He's still dead. He didn't come back to life yet.
No, he did not. But maybe he does in this one, because I don't know. Apparently, in the test screening that never happened, there's time travel involved, and they erase Indy and replace him with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but
with a robot.
Yes, exactly.
So do you think they're grooming Phoebe Waller-Bridge to take over the franchise?
I don't know. I think,
should I not use the word grooming? That's probably not.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that with.
Are they preparing her to take over the franchise?
I don't think so. I think this is going to be an exciting farewell final film, and that's it. And I think I don't know. Depends on who you believe. Do you believe Kathleen Kennedy and James Mangold, or do you believe Doomcock? Depends on who you believe.
I don't know. Or I don't believe Bob Iger, because did he get fired? No. Bob Iger came back.
He got fired. He left and came. I don't know. He came back.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So he said that the future with 4 was unknown, but that film would not be the final installment in the franchise. So
really? Okay.
They will not recast Indiana Jones, so whatever they go forward with would either have to be a prequel with a young Indiana Jones, or, I mean, who knows? They could do whatever they want. But I could see them doing a whole new series of TV or movies with a young Indy. Or maybe we'll find out that, maybe Mutt will come back in this one. Okay.
He comes back at the end. He once again at the end, the hat goes blowing across the ground, and then you hear the dun, 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 and he picks it up, and it's Mutt.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know. Mutt Jones will return.
Mutt Jones. I mean, who thought of the name Mutt? To be honest,
I don't know.
That's got to be George Lucas.
Yeah, probably. Maybe that's this is going to be the redemption of Shia LaBeouf. He comes back in
the Shia LaBeouf,
TV series as Mutt Jones.
Mutt Jones. And the motorcycle of destiny. No, I don't know. They have to do something. I mean, obviously,
motorcycle of destiny. Nice.
This is a character that will never go away. There's going to be Indiana Jones or Indiana Jones siblings or offspring.
Yes.
Henry Jones the Third.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's got to be a point in this movie where where he's got to be with Marion, and they have a son, and they call him Henry, right? So he's Henry Jones the Third, and Henry Jones picks up the hat and puts it on, but it's too big for him right now. And he says, "Don't worry, kid, you'll grow into it," or something like that. And that's the end.
Yeah, that's right. And then it'll be because they could do it where it could be like that's a signifying that they're going to continue the legacy, and the kid is very young in 1960, so you could have like a modern day Indiana Jones series.
Yeah, he follows his dad into the family business,
and it could be set in the present day.
He's an archaeologist, adventurer, soldier of fortune.
Yeah.
In like the 80s and 90s and in the 2000s, because if it's 1969, so maybe he's 10 years old. When was Crystal Skull? What year was that? In the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess they already said that Mutt was their kid, though.
Yeah, but we're apparently forgetting that because we don't want to use that actor. But they could have another kid once they got married again. And I was born in the 60s, so they would only be in present day only be 10 years older than me in their 60s. So
well, yeah, he could be in his 20s, in the 80s, and then in the 90s. Yeah, he could definitely be in the 80s and 90s. Going all over the world, looking for antiquities, still fighting the Nazis in modern day society. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd watch that.
I would totally watch that.
Yeah. So.
I'm going to watch anything that has Indiana Jones in the name, I guess.
Well, and that's the way you retire the Ford version is like, well, we're going to set the new movies or new series in like the 80s or 90s or even present day. So, we can, you can have the picture of him in the background and talk about granddad. He was, or dad or whatever version you're doing it. So you could still do Indiana Jones without... Indiana Jones the Fourth, and Henry Jones the Fourth, or whatever. And
I mean, maybe they call it like Dr. Jones or something. Because you can't have Indiana because that was the dog's name. We call it the dog Indiana.
Right. So he's Henry Jones, and he's got his own name, Texas. I don't know, but but you can continue the story and do it in present day. And there's just off the top of our head, we gave you a way to do it without having to recast Ford's character or even.
But I'm going to hate to say it, though. A big appeal of the franchise is the name Indiana Jones.
Well, of course.
So they're probably more likely to do like a prequel kind of series.
Possibly.
Where they don't have to recast Ford.
They already did that.
Right, but they can do it again. Okay. And so they could just do, Indiana Jones as a kid. He's like in high school or something. I don't know. Or they already did that, too, I guess.
They did him as a young kid and as a teenager.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure. We'll see. I'm sure, like you said, that it's like you're not going to let that IP go away.
Well, you're not because you could make the case that Star Wars was a complete story, and yet here we are with 9 movies.
Right.
And there's only been 5 Indiana Jones movies, so I'm just saying you could still make 3 more.
And I think in a way, if you make this like in some significant way the sign off of Ford's character and that iteration of the character in the way that kind of frees you to do whatever you want, because I kind of feel like not just coming up with a decent story, maybe a combination of Spielberg, Lucas, and Ford's schedules, because Ford only does, or at least at the time for a while there, he only did 1 movie a year. I think it kind of was made it so we only get an Indiana Jones movie every 10 years or so because things don't come together. But now that if you free yourself from that shackle in a way, and at the same time are obviously open to people other than Spielberg and Lucas doing it, then it's like, okay, now we can do a new movie franchise and a series if we want to. We can do as much Indiana Jones as we want. So. Yep. Yeah.
Well, I'll leave you with this final comment. They killed Han Solo.
This is true.
So they don't have to recast the character if he's dead.
Right.
So.
And they're doing the Solo movies, and they seem to be more chatter about doing a sequel to Solo. So.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they'll kill Harrison Ford. I don't think they'll kill Indiana Jones. But I think that he will either go off into the sunset, or settle down finally, or retire, because he says those days are long gone, Sala. Yeah. But then they have one last adventure.
Yeah.
And then they sail into the sunset. Actually, Sala and Indy actually turn out to be together. They're a couple.
That's it. Marion has left him again because he's Indy, and he's like...
he'll never settle down.
He realized, when Sala was saying "as you wish," that he really meant "I love you," and
exactly, and that's how it ended.
Yes, and they go off together holding hands. I would totally be in favor of that. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, they're having that conversation. It's like they're talking on the street. He's like, I miss the sea. I miss adventures.
Yes.
It's like, those times are long gone, man. We're not doing that anymore.
Yep.
So stop calling me. Lose my number.
Yeah, dude. Don't call me. My wife is.
You're ghosting. I'm going to ghost you now.
He goes to live with Indy and Marion. That would be cute. Uncle Solid.
Solid lives with them?
Yeah.
Sure. No, Solid. I love the fact that he kept the hat, though, by the way.
I know. He has awesome. The fez.
He does have the fez.
I'm glad he's back because I feel like, he was in the first, third, and briefly, not enough in the third movie. So I have a feeling this is probably going to be just like that's going to be his only scene is their conversation. I hope he's in more of the movie, though. I hope he's. Well,
I mean, he's like a fixer for Egypt, right? If they go to Egypt, I guess. But,
right.
But I don't think he'll accompany Indy on. They can't de-age everybody, so they're not gonna, they're not gonna necessarily accompany. He's not gonna go on the adventure with Indy.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be like Indy is reluctantly drawn into this thing because of his goddaughter, maybe, but also because he hates the space Nazis.
The best part would be at the end if the hat goes rolling across the ground and you hear the music start and someone reaches down and picks it up. If it was Short Round, that would be the best. So
yeah, they're not going to do that.
No, that would be so awesome. I would watch a series of him being like taking up the mantle, and you could even have Ford like appear as like I'm in a jam, and he calls
Ghost.
No, he calls him and he's like, "Hey, Indy, I need some help here."
It could be a downer, but what you could do is you could have Indy die, and at Indy's funeral, Short Round shows up, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character gives him the hat and says he'd want you to have this.
Oh, yeah,
and that's how it starts.
Yeah,
he wanted you to have this.
Yes, hands him the hat and the bullwhip.
Or they go back to the house for like the wake or something.
Yeah.
And Short Round shows up and she's like, "Oh, just a second. I've got something for you," or whatever.
Indy left something for you.
Yeah. Indy left something for you. Yeah. And he opens the package in the car even, or she says he wanted you to have it, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and he like takes the hat, he just looks at it, and then he puts it on.
He smiles, and the music comes up, and that's how it ends.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I like that.
I'd be up for that. I
got a little chill, actually.
I did too. I would really love it for at some point, just a brief cameo for Short Round to be in this. I don't think he is, and I haven't heard anything about him even being.
No, I feel like he won't be. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. That would be the perfect ending. Is like at the wake. It's like, hey.
Many people have pitched that, not just me, but
I know. I know. A lot of people are wanting that. It's like, come on. It's not too late to film that scene and put it in the movie because
it's not too late. You got another half a year for that. You're still in post. You can do it right now.
Exactly. So, just saying.
I would watch that. But I mean, how old is he though? He's not in his 50s now, right? Ke Quan.
Yeah, but I mean, Ford was in his 40s in Raiders, so it's not that big a stretch. Come on.
And it's not the years, it's the mileage, baby.
And I'm in my 50s and feel like crap, but I'm sure, he takes better care of himself. So
I'm not going to ride a horse and go,
But I'm sure other people, actors, especially in their 50s, are taking much better care of themselves than I am. So.
Well, and also there's stunt people for that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Again, kids.
Don't need to do everything myself.
Yes. So
that's not really him on the horse in Raiders either.
Exactly. So.
All right. But that is him in the sequence where he's fighting with the guy in the truck, in the cab of the truck, because that's on a platform that's moving. And
yes, and it's very well.
It's very safe.
Yeah, it's not like they just said, "Hey, hop up here and have this fight."
Hop on the hood and see what happens.
Yeah, no.
I love that where it's such a great sequence, that fight when he gets on the hood. He's like trying to pull himself up, and the hood ornament breaks.
Yes.
That's just like genius. That's like a genius bit that happens, which just shows you that the Nazis will fail eventually because their cars are shit.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Spielberg kind of knows how to put together a movie,
I put together an action sequence, but that I'm sure that was also the second unit guys too. But I'm not going to take anything away from Vic and those guys.
Exactly. I feel like the same way about the Indiana Jones movies that I do about the Star Wars movies. That I'm glad for this one that it is somebody new writing and directing it, because it just felt
definitely.
like
fresh blood.
I liked Crystal Skull, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely had that. I don't know. It to me got to the point where it felt like someone going, "Okay, I'm going to direct this movie the way Steven would direct it," and it just didn't. It felt, I don't know. I still like it, but it felt like almost like
it's my least favorite Indiana Jones movie.
I'll say that. I mean, I like all of the Indiana Jones. Yes, even Temple of Doom. And it's, to me, it's like, what mood am I in if I'm going to watch an Indiana Jones movie? I think I'll watch. I haven't watched Temple of Doom in a while. I think I'll watch that. I haven't watched.
For me, it goes Raiders, the third one, and the second one, then the fourth one.
Raiders is just so, to me, so different than all the rest of the Indiana Jones movies.
You know what it does? It feels more. What's the word? It feels more raw. It feels more like they're really trying to. It's not as slick. You know what I mean? It's just like feels like they were trying to capture something, and I don't know that they were thinking about a franchise at the time. And people were in different moods. They were more of an optimistic thing, more of an adventure story. Whereas Temple of Doom, as we know, was being made while both Spielberg and Lucas were going through horrible divorces, so they were angry.
Yes.
And then the third one was kind of trying to redeem itself a little bit to be lighter. And, with Sean Connery, it's hard to go wrong with that. But
the third one, to me, just went too far campy in some...
A little bit.
Yeah, some bits. And
sure,
then,
yeah.
So, anyway, I agree with you. Right. I kind of feel the same way about the Star Wars franchise. Like, the 1977 Star Wars was kind of this, like, raw guerrilla...
Yeah, exactly.
Filmmaking kind of thing, and then it was like, okay, now we have money, now we can brighten things up and make things look slick. And
but then the next one was Empire Strikes Back, so I don't know. That's pretty fucking good too.
Well, that's true, but George didn't write that one, but he came up with a story
or directed. Yeah,
right. So,
George was smarter maybe than Spielberg. It's like I don't really enjoy the directing maybe. And so I'm going to let someone else do it.
I don't know how I'm going to follow up this movie, so I'm not going to try. I'm going to let someone else do it. Here's the story. Go.
I would say if you're talking about directors, obviously, I would say Spielberg is a much stronger director than George.
I can tell you this though, based on Radioland Murders, which is another movie that George wrote and did not direct, that he is a very hands-on producer, because he was on set every day for Radioland Murders. I'm sure he was on set every day for Empire and Return of the Jedi. So.
Right, but he had the sort of smarts. I think you got to give him credit for that, to let Irvin Kershner kind of run things and do. And I think that's why, in many ways, Empire was so good, is that he didn't exert as much control over that one as he did with Return of the Jedi, which obviously has more of a George Lucas sensibility.
Yes,
with the Ewoks and whatever. But yeah, I think you can see the change in him too. It's like Star Wars was a raw sort of guerrilla independent film based on his independent roots, like just doing THX and just doing these American Graffiti, like by the seat of your pants. Let's put the camera in the lap and drive around a car.
Exactly.
And that's the same thing with Star Wars. He had this independent filmmaking mentality, and then he became a billionaire. And then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa,
Now I could do everything on the computer.
Exactly. Yeah. So that shows you. The sort of deterioration. Like Star Wars was raw and sort of had indie roots, and then Empire was slightly less so, but a better film, because Irvin Kershner obviously is a better director, Lawrence Kasdan a better writer,
right?
And also Lawrence Kasdan wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark, so that should tell you something too. But and then Return of the Jedi is like George's like, no, I think I want more control over this one, so I'm going to hire a director I can push around a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I need to make toys. I need toys. I need lots of toys.
Yeah, because that's where I'm making my millions.
I'm making my money, because they were stupid enough not to take the merchandising rights.
And I'll never give it up.
I'll never give it up, yeah. So, yeah, you can see the progression. And then, of course, the prequels were all slick and kind of like and antiseptic in a way.
Right.
And then, of course, you get the movies like J.J. Abrams doing his movie, which is like, I'm going to make an imitation of George Lucas of Star Wars, basically.
I'm going to make an imitation of Steven Spielberg directing a Star Wars movie written by George Lucas.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah, like with Super 8, it's like, I'm going to make a movie that Spielberg would direct, basically as Spielberg would do it.
Yeah.
So he's basically he made that movie like Spielberg was directing a Star Wars movie, and then Rian Johnson, which everybody hates because his movie was different.
I love that movie. It was like,
You know what? It's grown on me. I think what I like about it the most, and we gotta move on in a second. But I think what I liked about it the most is like the idea that it's not just the Skywalkers that are the important people. It's anyone can be important. You know,
right? Exactly.
It's the idea that we're all in this together, and it's a big galaxy, and you know everyone can be a Jedi, maybe, or everyone's got the power within them. That was kind of a cool ending, I thought.
And never followed up. That was my biggest disappointment about Last Jedi.
Not only never followed up, but like the ending of Rise of the Skywalker is basically a fuck you to that movie. It's like, I'm Rey Skywalker. No, fuck you, you're not. You know
exactly.
I mean, we talked about this so much. It's just like,
I know.
No, that's if she was following her character arc, she would have just said, I'm Rey.
Right.
Or Rey Organa, as we've talked about many times. Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
All right. Let's pick things quickly and get out of here. Please.
Let's do that. And I'll go first.
Whatever. Go ahead.
Damn it. Well, you always make me go first, so I'm choosing to this time.
I can't make you do anything, man. I'm reaching across the 1,000 miles between us and shaking you. Go first.
You're using the Force and making me go first.
You don't want to go first. Oh, wait. All right, so go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to pick a TV series that just got recently renewed, even though it's not finished with its first season, and that's the show Tulsa King, starring the aforementioned Sylvester Stallone.
Filmed about 100 miles north of here.
Nice.
Or maybe a couple hundred miles in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, speaking of, following movie stars, I was like, a TV series starring Sylvester Stallone. I'm totally going to watch that. And I didn't watch it like right away. I banked the episodes, and there's only like 3 episodes, but I started watching it, and it's really good.
Good.
Stallone, I've always thought Stallone has been very, very good at comedy, and not that this is a comedy. There's definitely comedic elements to it, and it's much. It's not quite as soap opera-y and serious as Tyler Sheridan's other Yellowstone show. Yeah. It's really good. So Stallone plays a made man, a guy in the mafia he's released from prison after 25 years, and he basically went to prison because he took the fall for a murder that the son of the head of the mafia took, and never ratted them out, remained loyal, and he comes out expecting to get this huge reward, and instead he's exiled essentially to Tulsa, Oklahoma to plant the flag and start up the franchise there, right? And of course, he immediately falls in with a quirky cast of characters, literally. It's just it's really good. They do a little bit of kind of fish out of water because he's been in prison for 25 years, so there's some things he doesn't quite get, but they don't go too far with it. He's not like spending half an episode trying to figure out a cell phone or anything stupid like that.
What's a cell phone?
They don't do that. But
that's a terrible Stallone impression. I apologize.
That was pretty terrible. They do a very funny thing in the first episode about like the typical, because the person that is the woman that is kind of shows up first as the love interest. They do this great sequence with the age gap thing, because that's a big thing in Hollywood. You always have the older actor with the younger actress, and everyone just accepts it, right? Well, it's addressed pretty quickly in the first episode, and in a very unflattering to Stallone way. It's pretty great.
Good.
Yeah, it's and there's something else about her character that's revealed at the end of the first episode that really tips everything on its ear. But I don't know, it's a great show, and I'm glad it got renewed, and I think it deserves it. Like I said, it's only 3 episodes in, but everyone in it is fantastic. And I highly recommend it. If you haven't been watching Tulsa King, you should absolutely watch it. It's quite good.
Well, it's got a good pedigree in the writing and producing area too. I mean, Taylor Sheridan, but also Terrence Winter, who did The Sopranos.
Yes. Yes.
probably knows something about the mafia scene. But I'm gratified to see that Max Casella is in the show, so that's good for him.
Yeah. Yes.
Good for him.
It's
pretty good cast. And Martin Starr, of course, Garrett Hedlund, underappreciated actor. Dana Delaney, right? She shows up. Annabella Sciorra.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
it's fantastic. I apologize. I said Tyler Sheridan earlier, but I meant Taylor Sheridan.
Taylor Sheridan,
of course.
yeah.
But
well, he's basically the king of Paramount Plus, isn't he? So that's
he is. He's got like 14 Yellowstone prequel shows. One of them starring Harrison Ford, actually, coming up soon.
And Helen Mirren.
Yes,
so, come on.
And Timothy Dalton in that one too. I'm not not really a huge fan of Yellowstone. It just wasn't. I think I talked about this before. I watched the first
soap opera.
Yeah, I watched the first few episodes, and I was like, "Yeah, this isn't for me." But I get it that a lot of people like it, and it's great. But Tulsa King is more my speed, and I tell you, it's fantastic. If you're not watching it, you absolutely need to. So there you go.
Yeah, I am interested. I'm going to wait till all the episodes drop before I watch it. But they do. It's interesting that this was originally supposed to be set in Kansas City, because that's what the show was called originally, Kansas City, which makes more sense because Kansas City was well known as a mafia sort of stronghold. But maybe it's even funnier that he ends up in Oklahoma because that's
he immediately sets up his empire and way to earn money to send back to the mafia, and it's very modern day. I'm not going to spoil it because it's just a freaking great sequence. But yeah, you got to watch it. It's pretty terrific.
Well, I will.
And Stallone is awesome in it. Like I said, he is very good. If you've never seen the movie Oscar that he stars in, see that if you want to see how great. It's not the best movie, but he's fantastic in a comedic role in that movie. So see that movie and understand that he is a really funny guy and can play multitudes, and then go watch Tulsa King because it's a pretty terrific movie or show. So there you go.
Yeah, I think Stallone is sort of, because he's done so many like action roles and so much like stereotype kind of stuff, stereotypical, and he made a few weird movies and with some weird career choices. Like Cobra was a strange kind of movie. Which, whatever. But crime is a disease. He's the cure, that kind of thing. But he can do comedy. He can be funny.
Yeah.
And I think this is a natural kind of deal for him because why wouldn't he want to do TV? It's probably a somewhat of a relaxed atmosphere for him. But this is a case where it's definitely people are going to watch this show because of him. So it's definitely the case that people are it's a Stallone as the star. But I would imagine that he feels like he has nothing to prove at this point in his career, so he's like, I'm just going to do, whatever.
I'm going to have fun, do something for fun, and it
has
works.
Some fun, yeah. And they actually do film in Tulsa, so.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I mean, some of it, I'm sure. I don't know if all of it's then there, but my friend was the film commissioner of Oklahoma, so I heard all about. Tulsa
nice.
King for a long time, yeah. And a producer in her own right. She just decided to go back and live in Oklahoma and work with the film commission. But she's gotten a lot of high-profile shows to come to Oklahoma. So not here in Austin. People don't want to film here anymore. But I guess Oklahoma's still cool. So anyway, my pick is something simple and useful, and I'm sure I've picked it before, but I still, in fact, I'm using one right now to write down notes for this episode. I'm picking a very, very important tool in life, a pencil called the Blackwing 602. It's basically as I said, a pencil, and it's very historic because the Blackwing was a very, very useful pencil. Lots of famous people swore by them, famous writers, Hemingway, all these guys always had like a giant pencil case or a cup full of pencils on their desks to write stuff. That's back when you had to use a typewriter and your hand to write things, kids.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day. But I love them. I have a bunch of them on my desk too, but I will always reach for one. It's one of my favorite pencils, and it's very smooth, but it writes pretty dark. And it has like the characteristic sort of eraser on the top. It's like the sort of pressed down eraser that sticks up more, and the more of a square one than a typical pencil. So that's how you know what it is. But this company brought back the Blackwing pencil when they released it, but now they do these editions. So they do different, editions based on, historical events, or they do, based on historical figures like artists and stuff like that. Like, let me just, I should have had this better prepared and had some of the editions available to talk about. But anyway, yeah. So it's a great pencil. It's a great writing instrument. If you like that kind of thing, you just need to, you can buy them at blackwing602.com. Or you can just, some people might balk at spending this money for a pencil. They're like a couple of dollars, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's cool. I like to write by hand. I think there's still some connection between the hand and the brain, which is also why some people use typewriters and some people use more analog tools. But I feel like I'll do a lot of things by hand. Although I use the computer obviously now, but
Sure. Yeah.
But stuff like that. So anyway, it's that's my pick. Blackwing 602.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah, I like analog tools. I'm more of an analog tool myself, if you think about it.
Don't be a Luddite.
Don't be a No, I like technology. Obviously, we're recording a podcast on a computer.
Yes.
We're putting in the hands of production. I mean, we could do this podcast and write it down.
We could, and then publish it.
Hand out leaflets or zines or whatever. It's
Stand on the corner and hand out. Yes.
Here, this is what we think about. This is what we think about Star Wars. Everybody, here, here's my notes about the latest Indiana Jones trailer. People are like, what the fuck, I mean, that's all you had back then, right? They had the newspaper or whatever.
That's true.
Or they had the guy standing there. Like that's what I love about that show, Rome. I don't know why I'm talking about it. There's a guy who would deliver the news to the Romans, like, and Caesar has gone off to, So that was it. The town crier. That's the only people got news. They didn't have TV. They didn't have anything. So
hey, I did a mini comic in the 80s when I was in high school, and the radio station I worked at, I used the copier there to print them all out, print out all my, and then staple them together while I was working. So
Wait, you use company assets to print your own thing?
I did. I know.
Such a rebel.
I know.
Such a rebel, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
that's great.
Yes.
No, that's cool. I love that, and people do that today still. In fact, I was just talking to a guy the other day who's publishing his own magazine, so it's awesome.
There you go.
People still do use paper. People still do use pen and pencil and whatever. But yeah, and people make zines of like. I have a lot of friends who make zines of their photography. Like they'll print it out on their color printer and they'll staple it together, literally. In fact, there's tons of videos on YouTube about how to make a zine, how to fold the paper correctly. From like 2 pieces of paper, you can make a whole little book out of it.
Yep,
it's pretty cool. Anyway, so find the Flickcast at the usual places: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, etc. Find Joe and I on the socials. I think the Flickcast is still hanging in there on Twitter. I'm still on there sometimes, but I've been spending more time on Mastodon. The Flickcast is on Mastodon. I think Joe's on Mastodon too.
I am, yes.
And also I've been trying Hive still, and Hive's been having its problems.
Yeah, it's a little slow still on.
I'm not sure I can commit to a new social media platform right now. I'm kind of busy. So I have been spending some time at Mastodon just like posting photos and stuff. But I still check in on Twitter occasionally to see what,
Watch
what
the
horrible
implosion,
thing, what horrible thing has happened this week. Or today, or this hour of the day. What a shit show. Anyway, and then of course, you can find us everywhere, other places, Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. If you want to go look,
we're around. We're easy to find.
We're around, yeah, easy to find, easy to communicate with. If you want to communicate with us, and then of course, my favorite thing is please. Feel free to rate the show on Apple, especially if you like the show or don't like the show. But if you like it, it'd be better to get a rating from you than the people who don't like it. So, and I have noticed that people have been rating. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
We have more ratings. I noticed, and they've mostly been good. So we're not at 5.0, but we're like 4.8. So that's pretty good, I guess.
Yep.
People don't hate it. They just don't love it. So that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with above average.
Yeah, yeah. Set your goals low and attain. There you go.
I strive for high mediocrity. So
there you go. So we're right there. I'm happy.
We're right there. So all right. Anything else, Joe?
I think that's it.
All right. Cool. So for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks so much for listening.